help kind of walk through using the Ultimaker Cura slicing software for 3D printing. So we're going to start off with the simple thing. We're going to go straight into downloading the Cura slicing software, and then we're going to pop over into Cura and talk a little bit about some of the basic settings that are needed to get started. So just from the ultimaker.com website, under the software tab, you'll see down here the download free. This is really simple stuff. Just click download, choose the device that you're using, and the download, find a location where you want it. The download will begin. Once that download starts, double click on it. It's an executable file, and it will install Cura on your device. Once we have Cura in place, we're going to be here at the screen. I want to talk about the download for a second. Cura makes a lot of updates. It finds fixes and bugs and new features all the time. And what it'll do is send out a new update. So look in here. I'm going to flip back over to my web browser for a second because I did all that talking and I didn't show what I thought I was showing. Again, this is just ultimaker.com, the download for free, and again, click here on your device, find a place to store it, and click Save. All right, so a little backtracking there. Let's get back into Cura. I was talking about the updates. Lots of updates come in for Cura, and it will take the new update. So, for example, this is this version, I think, is 5.2.2. Okay, 5.2.2. And when you go get the new version of Cura, instead of replacing this old version, it will add a new version to your computer. That's for really for two reasons. Or the main reason that it's for is that you are able to use back versions for different printers. So some of the really old printers that don't work well with a new Cura, you can go back to those older versions and continue to use them. So you get your choice. And I mentioned that, so you'll want to go to Add or Remove Programs if you want to adapt the new version and dismiss the old one and delete it. So you can get that off your computer, free up some space, and then make sure you don't actually accidentally go into the later version. Go ahead and pick the option to log in. The login will help identify who you are and help you keep your settings from version to version. So anything that I put in here follows my name, and so that way when I get a new Cura, it has all of the settings that I put in there. So I just want to talk about setting up to get going. We'll get into printer settings in the next module. Here we're just talking about getting it fired up. It's on your computer, and we're going to go over some of these buttons on the top. Really, the only one that you're going to use under File quite a bit is Export. This is once you've gotten a document ready and you want to export this particular piece. There's a couple of ways to export that file so that you can work it again. You won't use that very often. More often, if you see down here, you're going to use the Save to Disk feature when you are getting ready to go and print. So let's just move through a couple of these. There's a couple of ways to hit the same thing. We'll call it Preferences and Configure Cura. These are the ones that I want you to look at and see what we're doing different. The general settings for this particular lesson, we're just going to stick with all of the general settings for now, and we're going to not make any changes to those. What I want to show you is the settings visibility. This is where you're able to determine what you see when you're preparing something for slicing. So we're going to jump ahead and we're going to look over here and this little caret pulls it down. I might have to close this. So everything that you see here, we're going to learn about in another module. These are different settings that we can change to our slicing software. And by default, you don't see all of those. By default, you're going to see just these recommended changes. And if you want to go into custom, you'll hit custom, and you'll see some of this stuff, but not all of it. And I showed you that because we're going to go back into preferences and the Cura settings, and we're going to click on settings. And now these are all of the things that you can change. So for example, this first one here is listed quality. In the quality, you're able to check this button on layer height. If I uncheck it, I will not be able to adjust the layer height in my slicing software. If I check it, it will be visible in the software. Now I'm going to have to skip over and show you something. When you highlight, when you hover over one of these different selections, one of these different adjustments, and hover, you can actually make this where it'll give you a really detailed instruction as to what that thing does. And so I want to pop over here and show you that. Over here in this marketplace. In the marketplace, these are modules that are made by users, other companies, some by Cura, but you can see where they've identified who's the producer of these items. One of them, there's a bunch of different things you can look at. Mesh tools, settings guide. This is the one that I'm using now. So this is the guide here that allows me to hover over something, and it gives a full detailed description of what it is. So you can just click on install, and it'll install that that extra add-on or plugin to your Cura. There's a bunch of them in here. Here's a really neat add-on where you're able just to go ahead and print calibration shapes, so you don't have to go find them on the internet, and it puts it there in the settings right there for you to use. So remember, that's over in Marketplace, and the one that I want you to at least download is the one that says Settings Guide. So that way when we're in to the Preferences and the Configure Cura and Settings tab, we can hover over the layer height and get all the information you ever wanted about layer heights. So each of these things are really personal for each user. I would suggest that unless there's a particular one that you want, then just stick with what's already listed. Okay? And as you begin to be a little bit more experienced, you'll be able to know that you want to adjust something different. So this infill pattern may not be standard, but as you can see, there's many different infill pattern types. And if you figured out a reason that you want to change that infill pattern, this is going to be the place where you would add that selection to there. So I'm not going to get a whole lot into each one of these because, again, just to get started, go with what's already there. And as you learn and grow just a bit, you will know which ones to go choose, and you'll want to add those things to it. All right, so this has just been a quick dive, jumping into downloading it and getting your extensions added, making sure that you have what you want visible. And we're going to look at in Module 2, we're going to look at setting up the printers and also look at the different print material and how to import a file. So this will conclude this video, and when we start back up, we'll dive a little bit deeper.